There was nothing left of Earth. They had leached away the last atoms of its substance. It had nourished them through the fierce moments of their inconceivable metamorphosis, as the food stored in a grain of wheat feeds the infant plant while it climbs towards the sun. At the height of the space race, massive ships appear above Earth. Within them are the Overlords, beings of an almost unimaginable strangeness who guard humanity for their masters. On today's episode of the Eckhart's Ladder Book Club, we will be discussing Childhood's End by Arthur C Clarke. Videos like this would not be possible without the fine members of my book club, and if you would like to become one of them, you can find a link to the Patreon down in the description. Joining the Patreon gives you the option to choose future books, participate in discussions, and just generally contribute to the book club. Again, link down below. Things have been a little different for this book, truncated I guess, and that's largely due to the holiday season, but after this, I will be putting up the options for our next read. I just love doing these videos, but without you guys, not really possible. Anyway, I'm really happy we're reading Childhood's End after 2001: A Space Odyssey and its sequel 2010, which we've covered in past videos, because Childhood's End, which is often called Arthur C Clarke's masterpiece, contains the seeds for those later works, something that doesn't really become evident until the last third or so of this novel, as Clarke looks at the ascension of humanity. It all starts though with the space race, and the opening chapter is actually quite interesting. You're introduced to a Russian and an American scientist working in parallel, both trying to reach the moon for their collective countries, but that's all interrupted as massive ships appear in orbit around the planet, taking position over Earth's major cities. He felt no regret as the work of a lifetime was swept away. He had labored to take man to the stars, and in the moment of success, the stars, the aloof, indifferent stars, had come to him. This was the moment when history held its breath, and the present sheared asunder from the past as an iceberg splits from its frozen parent cliffs and goes sailing out to sea in lonely pride. All that the past ages had achieved was as nothing now. Only one thought echoed and re-echoed through Reinhard's brain. The human race was no longer alone. Contained within these ships is a mysterious race known as the Overlords. At first, their purpose of traveling to Earth is unclear, but soon they take direct measures, interfering with humanity and ensuring its prosperity. For 6 days, the ships silently floated above Earth's most important cities: New York, London, Paris, Moscow, Rome, Cape Town, Tokyo, Canberra, and more. But on that 6th day, Earth received a message from Clarence, supervisor of Earth. He spoke in perfect English, and in an instant, essentially ended the sovereignty of every state on the planet. Initially, some countries attempted to fight back against the Overlords. None were even remotely successful, as the alien technology was several orders of magnitude beyond what humans could even dream of. The Overlords made rules for humanity, requiring in general the end of all war, racism, oppression, and violence. They very rarely had to do anything direct to enforce their orders, but when the need did occur, they could do things like cutting off the sunlight to a particular region. The first section of the book after the invasion takes place 5 years later. We follow the UN Secretary General, who regularly meets with Kelleran, who describes himself as a civil servant attempting to administer a colonial policy. Although many humans have submitted to the Overlords, and in truth, the quality of life has increased, many are still wary, to put it lightly, and that's partially due to the Overlords' refusal to show their physical form, to leave their spaceships. Still, Kelleran seems to be mostly a pretty cool guy, even somewhat affectionate towards humans, but he refuses to reveal himself. He doesn't get mad when the UN Secretary General attempts to discover what he looks like, and eventually states that in 50 years, the Overlords will leave their ship and reveal themselves to the human population. The reason for this is simple. There's something so disturbing about their appearance that humans need the time getting used to their presence before they can see their true form. We also learn that the Overlords have had failures in the past, and that one of those failures may have even been with early humanity. However, the next 50 years usher in a golden age. The old cities of Earth were essentially deserted, left to mechanized machines. Country names are still used for practical purposes, but the Earth's achieved a one-world government, not sovereign to humans, of course. Crime has vanished, the Overlords have ultimate surveillance, and just generally, people are extremely well educated and have ample time for the arts. Many people have multiple homes around the world, poverty is non-existent, but human cultural and scientific progress has not just stagnated, it's fully ended. The Overlords grant humanity a machine which allows allows them to essentially see through human history, which has essentially ended organized religion. It's also revealed that it wasn't in fact many ships which the Overlords had traveled to Earth in, but multiple illusions and a single true ship. On the day he promised, Kelleran travels down from his massive vessel in a small shuttle and reveals himself to humanity, taking the form of a devil. And this leads to the question, what did the Overlords do in the past so that humanity associates the image of a devil with pure evil? There's the idea of some sort of evolutionary or genetic memory, which has continued to paint the devil, the Overlords, as this terrible creature. Still, the 50 years do their trick, and the Overlords are essentially still accepted as the guardians of humanity. Just that now, some actually travel to Earth on occasion, and humans learn that their masters are incredibly intelligent, several times more intelligent than humans, even without their advanced technology. And there's just the general belief that there's nothing humanity could ever do to reach the Overlords technologically. That contributes to the technological stagnation, which I mentioned before. There were really no scientific advances being made whatsoever anymore. Then things start to get a little bit weird. They would never know how lucky they had been. For a lifetime, mankind had achieved as much happiness as any race can ever know. It had been the golden age, but gold was also the color of sunset, of autumn, and only Kelleran's ears could catch the first wailings of winter storms. Oh, also, one rule the Overlords do have: no exploring space. Space is not for people. Anyway, on Earth, the Overlords take an interest in human, paranormal, and parapsychic writings. The story the humans are told is that, hey, if we want to understand all of humanity from a sociological perspective, we have to read all of their writing, and Overlords can read really fast. It's not a big deal. However, it's pretty clear that there's something else going on, especially as a Ouija board ends up revealing the distant star of the Overlord home. And this is where things become very Clarkian. As one human, an astrophysicist named Jan, sneaks on an Overlord ship headed to their home, the end of civilization, the end of humanity has begun on Earth. Children across the globe first start having strange dreams, then end up developing powers. They become less and less recognizable as the beings they were, and Kelleran appears and gives what would be his final speech before humanity. I'll paraphrase some of that final speech. My work here is nearly ended. At last, after 100 years, I can tell you what it was. The supreme secret we kept from you was our purpose, but we could not tell you until now, for the secret was not ours to reveal. We came to your world and saved you from self-destruction. I do not believe that anyone would deny that fact, but what that self-destruction was, you never guessed. There was an abyss that the Overlords had been protecting humanity from, but it wasn't nuclear arms or war, it was something far stranger. Humanity has the ability to ascend. Phenomena which in the past had been written off as the writing of mystics was a hint at humanity's true capability. There was an evolution to come, but humanity needed to be monitored so it could happen properly. Else the race could become a parapsychic cancer to the stars. Why does that matter? Because there are greater alien minds in the universe. There is the Overmind, a strange being, race, thing, which has ascended beyond the physical plane and is essentially assimilating races to join its greater consciousness. The tragedy of the Overlords is that for some reason they can never take this next step, so they serve the Overmind in the physical realm. Humanity, however, can join the Force, extending its powers and its awareness, joining what the book calls the sum of many races which have left the tyranny of matter behind. The change is explosive and nearly instant. As Kelleran explains, it always starts with one young person, but after that, all the children across the world under a certain age begin to experience the metamorphosis, and it's only the children. Most of humanity is left behind in this transformation. There is no way back and no future for the world you know. All the hopes and dreams of your race are ended now. You have given birth to your successors, and it is your tragedy that you will never understand them, will never even be able to communicate with their minds. Indeed, they will not possess minds as you know them. They will be a single entity, as you yourselves are sums of your myriad cells. You will not think them humans, and you will be right. I've told you these things so that you will know what faces you. And the children of humanity are taken by Kelleran and isolated on a small island on Earth. He questions what's to be done with the survivors, recognizing that maybe the most merciful thing would be to kill them all, but he leaves them to their own devices. For what you have brought into this world may be utterly alien. It may share none of your desires or hopes. It may look upon your greatest achievements as childish toys, yet it is something wonderful, and you will have created it. When our race is forgotten, part of yours will still exist. Do not therefore condemn us for what we were compelled to do. And remember this, we shall always envy you. Many humans choose to end their own lives. Some live out their final days as the collection, whatever they are, begins to form their hive mind. Soon, all individuality is just gone. Looking upon the island, you'll see, yes, individuals, but individuals acting as a part of a greater group, running around for seemingly no reason. And their psychic powers continue to grow. Once, in a flash, they removed all vegetation from the island. The last living human is Jan, the stowaway aboard the Overlord ship. Because of the relativistic effects of time, his travel to and from the Overlord planet, which to him takes several weeks, sees almost 100 years in human time pass. The Overlord planet itself is quite interesting, but I don't want to make skipping this book easy for you, so I'm not going to talk about it much. But I'll say this, Jan is left with a distinct impression that the Overlords were right. Humans had no place in the stars. Jan is given the opportunity to stay, but he returns. Humans are gone, but the hive mind remains. They've now gained immense psychic control. They're capable of moving even the orbit of the moon, and eventually their maturation is complete. As the Overlords leave the planet for one last time, Jan is left to record his findings, which he'll send to their best scientists. He watches as the posthumans absorb all the energy from the Earth, eventually transcending to some place far beyond. Jan becomes the final dead human as the Earth is consumed, though our legacy lives on in those who have joined the Overmind. The Overlords, however, are left in the physical realm. Despite all their advanced technologies, they would probably never grow up, though they would keep learning and keep trying. For all their achievements, thought Kelleran, for all their mastery of the physical universe, his people were no better than a tribe that had passed its whole existence upon some flat and dusty plain. Far off were the mountains, where power and beauty dwelt, where the thunder sported above the glaciers and the air was clear and keen. There the sun still walked, transfiguring the peaks with glory, when all the land below was wrapped in darkness, and they could only watch and wonder. They could never scale those heights. Yet Kelleran knew they would hold fast until the end. They would await without despair whatever destiny was theirs. They would serve the Overmind because they had no choice, but even in that service, they would not lose their souls. And that's the ending. A book that I found incredibly sad and really quite depressing. We see the death of humanity, a species which loses its 300 million children to some higher power, then turns to dust itself, alongside an alien race, immensely powerful, perfect in every way, but incapable of reaching the true glory that it desires. However, at the end, I'm left with sort of the same questions I have after reading 2001 or 2010. Why is the Ascension worth it? Why is it worth giving up everything that makes living and being a human so special, something desirable? Why is giving up your individuality seen as ascension? Now, Clarke, I don't think, suggests that this is definitely the case, and at times, the Overmind itself almost seems threatening. I mean, you could say, in Halo, for example, that being turned into a flood form is pretty much the same thing. You're joining a greater consciousness and giving up your physical form. Humanity loses its uniqueness and its beauty to become an extension of some cosmic entity. But at the same time, the minds joined together seem to celebrate as they pass beyond the material world. So, something interesting to think about. But that is Childhood's End. Of course, let me know what you thought of the book. If you read it, what do you think of the overall storyline? If you do see the seeds of Arthur C Clarke's other works in this novel, I will say, from a pure writing standpoint, really beautiful read. I mean, I enjoyed this one a lot. Highly recommended. There's also a great audiobook. And of course, if you do want to join the Eckhart's Ladder book club, check the Patreon link down in the description. I want to give a special thank you to all my patrons, but especially those in the Executive Advisor and Inner Circle tier. That includes Bennett, I'm Oscar Wallace, and Video Gamer. So thanks a bunch, guys. And hey, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next time.